Hey everyone, welcome to Thursday Night Book Club. I am Natalie Dolan, Sapphire Brand Ambassador, and we are in the book Good Leaders Ask Great Questions, chapter 5, which is called How Does Leadership Work? Which I feel like is such a solid, it's like such a solid chapter. Like, break it down for me, Uncle John. Tell us, how does it work? Like summed up right here in this chapter. And so it's a very, very rich chapter. It had me pausing and rewinding and restarting and highlighting and taking notes. And so I'm going to just go over a small part of some of the biggest things that stuck out to me before I open it up. Okay, so where to even start? Gosh, yeah, there's so much stuff. I wanted to start off on one of the first things that made me really stop was the leader's prayer. God, when I am wrong, make me willing to change. When I am right, make me easy to live with. So strengthen me. So strengthen me that my power, so that the power of my example would far exceed the authority of my rank. And I was like, being in a rank company, I'm like, that is so good. I want, and we all need to be striving to, like, how's my example? Because this isn't about, like, you can have rank, but does the power of your example far exceed the authority of your rank? Because I just thought that was so good. Such a just place to be, like, humble, humility is so important because pride comes before the fall. And so the more humble you are, the more you'll go up, because people favor humble people. There's like a million pages in here. Okay. So okay, yes. And this was my other really big, I'm like flipping around to all the different pages, but okay. So on page 124, so it's in the section of what is the ultimate purpose of leadership. And so he breaks down different points, and I love the believe in them part. So belief is a major foundation of our business. Like, mindset and belief are the foundation of your whole business, right? And so if it's he says, if you want to help people, believe in them. One of the best ways we can help people is just by believing them. He says, that's why I say it's wonderful when the people believe in the leader. It's more wonderful when the leader believes in the people. How do you increase people's belief in themselves? You express belief in them. In general, people will rise to the level of leadership will rise to the level of your expectations. I call it putting a 10 on people's heads, meaning that you see everyone as a winner or a potential winner. And so I really believe in that. Is just, yeah, people rising to your level of expectation of them. So basically just being like, hey, you're a leader and this is what I expect out of you. This is what leaders on this team do. Leaders on this team talk on book club, leaders on the team add value in the page. Leaders in the team serve others and, have a team mindset, and so you tell them, hey, this is my expectation of you, and people rise to it. People really do rise to it. Even this past week, I got called out on bringing my kids to school late by my kid's teacher. And she was stepping on my toes. And I said, I'm doing my best. And she was like, it's really important that he gets here because instruction time starts at 8:15. She was like, I know he's only 5 minutes late, and I was like, I'm doing my best. And I felt, and she was stepping on my toes, but it was my own conviction, right? So did she hurt my feelings a little bit? Yeah. Was it okay? yeah, I survived and I processed it. And guess what? My kids have been to school on time the rest of the week because I wrote, even my face is hot thinking about how it made me feel at that parent teacher conference. Even just admitting that, I guess, I don't know. Like I was doing my best until somebody had a higher expectation of me. I really was, you know? And then I rose to that level of expectation. And I woke up early today. I was like, oh, I better get up, gotta get these kids to school on time, you know, like go figure, you know? And so that just really like, you know, people might not like it at first, but they still rise, you know? So that was a really good personal lesson for me. So I'm trying not to talk too much this week. Okay. I think this is the last part because I want more people to talk. I don't want to talk the whole time. So this is the last one that I'm going to talk, even though there is so much in here. On page 133, in the area of what are the top skills required to lead people through sustained difficult times. So in this business, it's not always rainbows and sunshines. And he goes at the end, he talks about seasons. He talks about the seasons for everything. There is every season to life. It's just a fact of life, right? Like every season can't be your harvest season. Some months you're not going to recruit 10 million people because you're planting seeds. And other months you're watering the seeds and you're getting a little bit of, and then some months the whole harvest comes in, So anyways, he says, so talking about difficult times, Jack Kinder says, you're not made in a crisis, you're revealed. When you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. When you squeeze a lemon, you get lemon juice. When a human being gets squeezed, you get what's inside, positive or negative. And like, whoa, does that step on some toes right there? John Maxwell also says character only matters when things aren't going your way. Like everybody has a good character when they just won the lottery, like, oh, everything's just peachy. But when your flight gets canceled 3 times in a row, what is your attitude? I remember the first time that connected with me was when my flight got canceled a bunch of times in a row. And I was like, okay, I can either sit here and be like, can't believe this is happening. Like, what? Like all upset, or I can just be like, okay, like this is my reality and we're going to go with the flow and we're going to make the best out of it. What can we do? How can we pivot? Whatever, And so he goes on to say the best way to approach tough times is to try to see them as opportunities. Most people want their problems to be fixed without having to face them, but that is an impossibility. As a leader, as a coach, as a catalyst for turnaround, you need to help people solve problems, take responsibility, and work to make things better. Most of the time, people need to dig themselves out of their difficulties, whether or not they were the cause of them. They need help, which you can give them in the form of advice, encouragement, and positive reinforcement. But everyone needs to do his or her part to work together. And I thought that really summed up coaching right there, because we can't, a lot of the times when you're coaching people and leading people, you can't fix all their problems for them. Like, I wish you could, I wish I could go into all of your messages and respond back the way that would be more effective or whatever, but then you wouldn't learn, you wouldn't grow. You wouldn't learn how to deal with, frustration or objections or whatever, because you're going to need to learn that in order to pass it on. So I just thought that was super tangible. Like we need to, help people, dig themselves out and figure that out. So anyways, I thought that was a really good part. I'm going to stop there because there's so much more. But first of all, I want some new people to unmute and just say something that you took away from the chapter, something that spoke to you. Yeah. And then I'm also going to ask some questions.
Okay, I'm going. Okay, so honestly, for me, this book couldn't have come at a better time because of where I'm at in my business. And I think, like Nicole could definitely tell you, that I have been reluctant to lead or be a leader because I don't feel like I am yet. And so, like, trying to measure up to that. So, I like this on 117. He said, great leaders don't start out great. Like all people, they start out as babies and grow to become adequate, then good, then great leaders. Leadership is developed, not discovered. It's a process. And so that was just like really reassuring to me. Like if I just do the things, and that's what I've been trying to do, is like self-growth, so I can add value to my team and to others as I grow my team. And then I'm going to skip forward to 129. I have a really hard time making decisions, even in my household, in my business. Like me and Chad have a business, and I'm always afraid because if I make the wrong decision, I feel like everybody fails, and that scares me. So he said, failure is this was a quote, failure to make a decision after due consideration of all the facts will quickly brand a man as unfit for a position of responsibility. Not all of your decisions will be correct. None of us is perfect, but if you get into the habit of making decisions, experience will develop your judgment to a point where more and more of your decisions will be right. And so I'm like, I just got to start doing the things, and it'll come, basically.
Ooh,
Yeah.
both of that is so good. I had that first one underlined too, like great leaders don't start out great. They, like all people, they start out as babies. And I had that underlined too. That was such a good, that was such a good one. And also, yeah, like making decisions is so important. And yeah, I really, really like that one too. That was a really good part. Okay, guys. So on the questions, number 2, how can you be a leader right where you are, even if you're at the bottom? Tangibly, what does that look like? And we're gonna wait for some new people. Way to lead, way to pioneer the way to lead, Jenna.
Okay, I'll say something. So I think just being consistent and encouraging, even if you're just starting out and you don't have all the right things to say, you don't, know all the ins and outs yet yourself, just human to human nature, is just being encouraging and being consistent. I've actually heard the 6th love language is consistency. For those of us who know what the 5 love languages are. And that really spoke volumes to me. Like, yes, because to be consistent would even be the top, right? Because if we like quality time and we like gift giving and we like, words of affirmation, then consistency would really rise above all of that. So even as a leader amongst friends or, as a partner in marriage or whatever the relationship, I think consistency, encouragement, just goes a long way, even if you don't have all of the ins and out yet of the business aspect. I think just human relation, it goes far. And just like sometimes for, my team, like I'll just like start the day like, hey guys, it's a new day, like just sending out something encouraging, nothing even businessy, so to speak, but just to like set the tone, like it's a new day, let's start over, whatever might have happened yesterday, like, just to give that encouragement and to remain consistent.
So good. That was a really good, that was a really good point. I'm gonna remember that consistency thing for sure. That like we're all like, yeah, that is the 6th love language. All of the women are like, mm-hmm. But yeah,
yes,
I mean,
Dr. Bob, my therapist, he's my pastor. He's amazing. 6 love language, consistency. Say it to your spouse. It's awesome. Pass it on.
Oh, it's on now. For sure, for sure. And really, yeah, I mean, adding encouragement and showing up builds trust, and that's a way to serve people for sure. Anybody else? How can you be a leader right where you are, even if you're at the bottom? Don't make me call on some folks. I'm gonna start calling on some folks.
All right, I'll hop in and say something. I think something that you can do as a leader where you are, even if you're at the bottom, is to continue to lead yourself. Craig Rochelle always says that you are the hardest person to lead, yourself. So just developing those good habits, developing your skill sets, and all of those things, because when you reach a new level of your leadership capacity, you're able to then implement that to, the people that do come alongside you in your journey. So continuing to lead yourself is so important.
So good. So good. It's building a strong foundation. Okay. Anybody have some? I was looking over the questions. Anybody else found a way that you're able to lead even when you're at the bottom? And by at the bottom, I mean, I don't know. I mean, unless you're at the very top, that could be anybody, I think when I first started out, I mean, exactly what Kristen was saying, just showing up and, even doing videos and, sharing little tips. Yeah, I've seen, like Jenna on my team make a video, make a video of like just how something works in the back office, so that other people know how that works, that adds value. You don't have to be a diamond to do that, you don't have to be at the very top to make those helpful videos. If you see a need, fill a need. That is a quote around my house. Okay. All right. And then open up to everybody. What were your biggest takeaways from this chapter? Book club leaders, feel free to chime in. Now everybody's waiting.
Where he kind of went through specifics. I like tangibles, and he lists on 124, like listen to their stories, make their agenda your priority. I think that one's really important with like respecting people's time and what is like on their mind and what are they worried about with their business. And of course, you already spoke to belief, pouring belief into them before they even believe, and really like walking the path with them. I think it's like, I don't know, like building some structure, some weird IKEA furniture that like, I bought this before, I built it before, like it might seem weird and challenging, but we're going to walk through it together. Really just that parallel, that they're not alone, and you hear them, see them kind of thing. I think that's so much of leadership.
Absolutely.
I am obsessed with when he says on page 127, he was talking about the priority decisions. And he goes about saying, if you're Noah and your ark is about to sink, look for the elephants first, because you can throw over a bunch of cats and dogs and squirrels and everything else that is just small animals, and your ark will still be sinking. If you can find one elephant to get overboard, you're in much better shape. And that speaks volumes to me. So it's just telling me, find the things that hold you back and get rid of it first. Everything else will come. Face your fears and everything will be much easier after that, because we tend to retract from the things that we fear. So if you're just going after the things that hold you back to begin with, nothing can hold you down. And that was something that I absolutely loved. I love that analogy. I love all analogies, but that one just kind of spoke to me, right to my soul. And I have it highlighted and I wrote it down and it's on my vision board. And I absolutely just loved what he said there.
So can I ask you, what would be an example of a big elephant?
Ooh, to me, when I first started, it was following back up with people. If I got a no, I shut down. When that was when I first started, and I didn't understand what it was to counteract or talk through it. I just saw a no, and growing up, like asking questions was to me known as disrespectful. Like you just took the answer and you walked over. And so learning how to ask appropriate questions and get to the bottom of an answer that was given to me, I've learned that most times no does not mean never. It just means not right now. And it means that they just don't understand. So I've learned to ask better questions. And he has some phenomenal questions in this book that help you get over that hump. But even his podcasts are really amazing of how I hate the word troubleshoot, but he troubleshoots questions that he receives. So that was one of my biggest hurdles in the beginning, was the word no.
Wow. Yeah. And how to overcome that. Yeah. That's a really big elephant to throw out of the boat, right? Instead of like finding the perfect preset for your Instagram, that's a like, oh, my Instagram, that's a cat, but you're absolutely right. Like slaying the giant of not wanting to follow up or the fear of following up. That's a big elephant. So that really good example.
Just to add to that, I think for me and even others that, like start new, you don't want to come off as annoying or become like the plexus person all of a sudden. But like, I stopped and thought to myself, you know what, when you're passionate about something, you talk about it. If you go to a restaurant and you love the food, what do? You're snapping the picture. Oh, you have to come here. Your children, your spouse, your hobby, like whatever your passion is, that's what your social media displays. So like for me, I kind of had to throw my own elephant self overboard to say like, I'm not being, a vacuum salesman. I'm passionate about this. I know this could help you. So if I became this, plexus person, so be it. You know what I mean? It's across the board. Anything that you find that you're passionate about is what you're going to talk about, no matter what it is. If you love it and you could share it and it could help them. So I think it's just also that fear. I feel like a lot of people like reserve themselves like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to say it again. I don't want to post it again. Or, twice a day is too much. Sometimes I feel like twice a day isn't enough. Like, I feel like, oh, something just popped into my head and like, that 5-second rule, like act on it, like it's here. Like maybe you should put it out there, like not to reserve it, like go for it if you really feel like it could reach that person. And I do encounter, even some being like, oh, the twice a day, like I feel like it's going to be too much. So it's just that feeling too, like just to have confidence in what you're putting out there, the fact that this is a passion, this is a lifestyle, this isn't something that's, here today, gone tomorrow. And that whole feeling, like that reservation, I think was a huge elephant for me at the beginning too.
I love that. I love that. I mean, the fear of other people's opinions was my elephant for sure. So
I was gonna also mention in page 131, where it talks about serving others is a value issue, a values issue. And that was so, like, it's always such a good reminder for us because our social media, we do have to do our posts, right? Like we do have to, talk about plexus, but we can't forget to even, add value on our social media that people would know that when they come to our, Facebook pages. They know that they're going to get more than just, here's a probiotic that you need to take. We know that that's value, right? And we keep doing that. But I think it's so important too to add value, because that's what leaders do. And that's not just for our teams, but for our audience. And it says here, if you value people, you will want to add value to them and serve them. And then on page 132, it goes over questions leaders should ask about serving. And these are really good too. Like, do others work for me or with me? Do you look at your team as just workers, or are they teammates that you're running with? So yeah, this little question area here is, I think these questions are good for us to just reflect, what's my mindset on my team, and how am I looking at my people? Is my team better because I'm on it? Am I glad to serve others and do it cheerfully, or is it a chore to serve others? So I think this is like a good reflection for all of us as we grow in our leadership.
So good. I had that highlighted. I have like a frog in my throat tonight. If you find it difficult or beneath you to serve others, your heart may not be right. To earn the right to lead in greater things, first learn to serve in smaller ones. I just really like that heart check, and I think it's good to recalibrate and even like asking yourself, like, do I value people? Do I love people? Like, do I love people? Because even like adding value to people who, you're not going to get anything from, like a stranger, somebody in the store, somebody at the gym, like, just asking somebody how they are and listening, that's serving somebody, like that's, adds value to people. And it's just because you value people. So, maybe ask yourself, and even in some seasons you can you can be consumed with so many other things that you forget to value people, and you forget to ask those questions and serve people. So just something to evaluate.
There was one other part that I just remembered on page 128. It was so weird. I read the exact same quote in 2 different books today. So I was like, oh, this is a sign that I need to say it. The Jim Rohn one, where if someone is going down the wrong road, they don't need motivation to speed up. They need education to turn around. And so I think that it's a lot of leadership, how we add value to our teams, even when it's hard sometimes, guiding people. If we see, like, we would be a terrible leader if we let you continue down a wrong path or a weak path or a less efficient path. And like, thank God Natalie has corrected me and re-steered me on so many things. Like, thank goodness. So think of that if you're being coached, and think of that when you're coaching your people, to present it in a way of, let's make you the best version. Let's, somebody did this for me, so I'm going to do it for you, versus taking it in a way. It's easy. All of us want to take it in a way of like defensiveness. Like, I think the way I did it was fine. Obviously, you did it that way. You thought it was fine. And so, yeah, it's okay to find a better way. Like, you're not supposed to know everything.
Yes, I love that. That's so good. That's a hot quote.
So I really liked the part that he talks about how the influence we have with others will either be positive or negative. And we get to decide which, how they feel about us by the time we're done, So I really liked that, because, sometimes you are having a bad day and, all the things. But yeah, think about how you're impacting people. And then I really, really liked the quote, or whatever he said. I don't know the page number, but where he talks about how successful people put in the effort even when they don't see it paying off, and they follow through with the plans that they made in the winter. So, when you're having hard seasons, you keep, the successful people, they keep working towards their goal. They don't say, well,
no one's responding to me right now. I must not be good at this or whatever. They figure out what the problem is and they keep going towards the goal, and it always pays off. So I really loved that part.
Yeah, there's so much maturity in knowing that the seasons will come, you know, it's like nobody's responding right now or nobody wants to join right now. Like, that's okay. Like, you got to keep on going, because every season is different and inevitable. Does anybody have one last thing to add? Anybody? All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for hopping on tonight. This was a great chapter. We will see you next week for How Do I Get Started in Leadership, which solid, this book, solid. So y'all have a great night.